and meeting a very special person towards the end of the month. Can't say who it is, but just getting stuff set up for that. So February is going to be a good month. We're getting things done. February is going to be a very crazy month. We got some stuff going on. Can't talk about it now, but you're going to see. It's going to be fun.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. As you've probably guessed by the opening clips, today we're going to be talking about Cardano. And that was Charles talking about February being a big month. And I still think we're yet to see what he was talking about. Now, despite that, just yesterday, and this is from Eric Balanchunas, who is the guy to follow when it comes to ETFs, Grayscale filed a 19B4 for a spot Cardano ETF, first one in the US, and the ballpark 60th crypto ETF filed this year so far. And it is only February, but Cardano is very much going to be a part of the institutional flows of money. In fact, if you look at CoinShares report, Cardano is constantly there in regards to inflows when there are general inflows. And I think it's maintained a high dominance in the cryptocurrency space, and it's likely going to benefit from that, certainly in regards to indexes that are going to be formed, et cetera, et cetera. And the fact that Cardano now has a 19B4 filed with the SEC is a great sign. It's a great step in the right direction. Ultimately, we need to see comment, or at least an acknowledgement by the SEC. They've given lots of acknowledgement in regards to, obviously, the Altcoin ETF. They just recently approved the Bitcoin Ethereum ETF. Obviously, Solana, they've now acknowledged their 19Bs, XRP, Dogecoin, etc. But Cardano will be in that kind of linear progression. And I do think that will unlock billions of dollars that potentially will flow into it. And that's very exciting. And actually, what I want to do in this video predominantly is look at Cardano from a price point of view. Now, I have previously stated my own personal opinion, and I could be totally wrong on this, that I do think there are projects out there that I pivoted more heavily into that will outperform Cardano. Perhaps more institutionally status cryptocurrencies that are actually working with the largest financial players in the world right now to enable this internet of value. But I think Cardano very much is going to play a role in that also. And one thing people always forget about when we talk about ISO 20022 cryptos is that Cardano is actually a part of that. It's kind of compliant with it. And those cryptocurrencies are essentially what's going to run the new financial system, which has DLT technology, blockchain, at its core. And I think with the realization of that, it's going to be remarkable to see, I think, the kind of inflows and to watch the inflows that we see into these altcoins. But really what I want to talk to you guys about in this video isn't just the good news. And of course, we'll wait to see what comes out this month. Certainly Charles alluded to a very important meeting at the end of this month. Really what I want to do is look at price action and give you an update on where we are. And our price prediction of $7.10 still stands strong today. And we have previously looked at historically the fact that Cardano is very much setting up, and I was a part of this, for a 2021 style move, perhaps not to the same percentages. I think Cardano did something like an 80x for me in the last bull market, having accumulated it at cents. But I do think it's going to do very well. And we're looking at about a 10x for Cardano from its current prices. The space has experienced a bit of a pullback. It has to contend with things going on the bigger picture, like, for example, DeepSeek. That really shook the tech sector, and we're part of the risk asset sort of class, if you will. And we also had the tariffs and how this have affected things. And crypto often bears the brunt of sort of drama that goes on, certainly over the weekend when it's kind of the only market over. But if we look at Cardano's kind of prior structure, and this is how markets move, I teach this. You guys would have seen me mention phase analysis. We typically break the markets down into 4 phases. Cardano, in my opinion, has just came out of an accumulative phase that's been confirmed on volume. And I'm talking about this over here, this breaking of this accumulation. And now we are in phase 2, and we're going to see continuation in phase 2, which is an uptrend. And we also have multiple technical targets at this stage, or technical patterns that are ultimately going to take us into phase 2. So we've got confluence there. And just to go back to looking at things historically, markets move in this kind of wave-like ebb and flow fashion, because human beings are ultimately behind them. But you can see this was Cardano's accumulation period down here. It very much took place in a double bottom formation, just like we have here today. Remember, that gives us a $2.90 price prediction. Then you broke out of it and you came back in before the bulk of the bull market really took place. Look at where we are today, ladies and gentlemen. This is your cumulative range, very double bottom-esque. You've had a breakout on volume. The volume isn't spectacular, but it's still really kind of the most amount of volume that we had seen really since Cardano had entered this accumulative range, kind of initiating what is now phase 2. And it's very common once you break out of something, you'll come back. You need to allow a little bit of nuance when it comes to crypto before you then see that continuation. And this is essentially what we're looking at. We've got the double bottom target that takes you $2.90. And then we've got potentially what is going to set up to be an inverse head and shoulders to take you to $7.10. Just like we had an inverse head and shoulders in the prior bull market that took us all the way to very close to the bull market absolute high of $2.21. So in the same manner that we're predicting or were predicting $2.21 back in the prior bull market, we are now predicting a $7.10 ADA price. And I think it's going to get there. Now, are there going to be coins that outperform it? In my opinion, yes. And I hold more of them than I do Cardano. But I still think it's going to do well and is very much going to be a part. And I think the ETF filing that we've seen is it really solidifies that of this bull market. And you guys will do well on it. And we did actually say Cardano could get anywhere between $5 and $7 in the last bull market. It only got to $3. We were wrong on that. We will eventually get there. And I think this bull market, you're going to see it. Not only are we seeing sort of a repeat of history in regards to the ADA US dollar chart, we're also looking at a very similar thing to what we'd previously seen for Cardano versus BTC. It's had this initiatory move, just like you saw here, then a pullback. It will base out, I believe, here, and then start to embark on a broader uptrend, likely to this sort of capping grind line forming this pattern. And then actually maybe it sets up for some broad continuation. I'm sure there'll be fundamental news on the back end of that, but we're talking 2026 onwards to be looking at that. But when we do look at ADA, it looks good. And ultimately, not only in regards to how we look at the markets through phase analysis, are we well on our way to experiencing a very broad uptrend, and it might go higher than $7.10. I don't know. It's just what I have technical sort of a technical target for, a technical pattern for at the moment. Not only do we have that kind of phase analysis confirmation, we also have technical targets that are taking us there and an amazing fundamental backstory and narrative. Cardano is very much a part of those USA cryptos. It's also ISO crypto, etc., etc. That is likely going to see it get to these kind of price predictions. So we're very excited. It always is something that I bring up that Cardano got to $3 really based on the Alonso hype. So the run up to smart contracts being enabled, and then there was a period of time that it actually took for that to come to fruition. Back in, I think it was August. Was it August? Yes, August 2021. I remember reporting on this. We were looking at this falling wedge break that ultimately took us to that sort of $3.15 mark. And then, of course, we know what happened from there on. But we're now at a stage where history essentially is about to repeat. This falling wedge was beautiful for us. You've ran into a resistance level, which is a good thing, not a bad thing, because it's going to set you up for a technical pattern that will ultimately see you go to $7. You will come out of this and see that continuation. And actually, this very much aligns with where the cryptocurrency market cap is currently at. Currently consolidating around prior all-time high resistance, now flipped to support, ready for a bounce off. And actually, if you look at the totals, they're doing what you'd expect. Total 2 in approaching an all-time high. You get a pullback around it. That's going to set you up that broader continuation. I can show you hundreds of charts that essentially solidify this. So when you look at the space as a whole, it's set to do very well through the lens of Bitcoin and the total market caps. And when you look at Cardano on its individual merit, not just in regards to the US dollar chart, but also in regards to the BTC chart, I think you've got a great time ahead of you. What I want to do now, guys, that we've covered the price, is actually close things off on another clip of Charles Hoskinson. Cardano fundamentally has a lot of things going on. It's been very interesting to watch their kind of governance system, their on-chain governance system that was recently enabled. I've got a lot of... I think governance is very complex. We've seen Charles Hoskinson sort of fire at Intersect because it's really sort of uncharted water that the likes of Cardano, Polkadot, I went through the whole Polkadot OpenGov things, are sailing on. You know, is this the right way to do governance? Via proof of stake, essentially. I'm not 100% convinced. The idea is that the people that have a stake in the network will be sort of incentivized to do right by it. However, what we see is a lot of kind of circle jerking. And that's always going to be the case with these governance systems, I'm afraid. that can actually benefit from influencing the governance themselves. And we're seeing that. We're likely going to continue to see that. However, it is an interesting kind of undertaking that's taking place. I think fundamentally Cardano has got a great narrative for it. Is it as strong as some of the others out there? In my own personal opinion, no. And don't hate me for that. We're not doing any sort of favors by saying that. I could come on here and just, tell you guys what you want to hear. And in some ways, certainly I have merit to tell you what you want to hear from a price point of view. But fundamentally, actually, I see projects doing more. And that could change on a dime, And with on-chain governance, that maybe it only takes one person to come along with a brilliant idea to really turn the tables over. So let's finish things off with this clip of Charles Hoskinson talking about where it's currently at. He talks about it being faster than Solana, and certainly with Laos, some of these things may come to fruition, but there's and we questioned this when the Laos paper was released. There was a lot to it, and the implementation of it is going to be lengthy. But that doesn't mean it doesn't get there one day, and actually that could set up that big pattern on ADA/BTC that we'll keep you up to date on. Let's dive into this clip of Charles, and then we'll love and leave you.
In months, we're going to be discussing the roadmap and the budget. And the roadmap that has been presented, and I'm going to spend this whole month talking about it, one day after another, is something I feel, and many people feel, will leapfrog the competition and get us where we need to go, where we're faster than Solana or as fast, but we kept our principles and integrity along the way. We're far more decentralized and far more resilient. It'll give us new markets to expand into, from everything the partner chains gives us to Bitcoin OS, Bitcoin DeFi, I should say. That whole thing, getting Bitcoin into Cardano, and many other things, quality of life, alongside all the things we need to do to keep the ecosystem going. Now, is it perfect? No. And should there be criticism? Absolutely. Should there be alternative proposals? Of course. When you look at a budget, it's a pie, and it's got slices in the graph. It's a pie graph. And each of those slices, we should discuss who else needs to be included for that to be comprehensive, and are we getting good value there? But here's what's going to happen. There's going to be a lot of people that will come and they will bike shed. They're going to spend the entire time nitpicking at small details here and there. And while they do that and gum up the entire process, the rest of the industry is moving forward. You want Cardano to go from 25 billion to 50 to 100 to 200? Okay, well, you got to invest in Cardano. And that's what the budget is doing. It's got to build the ecosystem up. And if we nitpick the fine details there and nothing gets accomplished, and the people that are building leave out of frustration, you will watch 25 turn to 15, turn to 10, turn to 5, and the ecosystem die. Just being real with you. That's what happens.
That somewhat goes to the point that I made in regards to on-chain governance. It's a very hard and cumbersome thing. Charles actually spoke there, I think, rather interestingly, about going from 25 to 50 to 100 to 200. And I believe he's talking about market cap there, because Cardano's market cap is around about 27 billion. For it to go to 200, you're looking at, again, round about just shy of a 10x, which would also give us confidence in regards to where we're predicting Cardano's price is going, based on that repeat of history, based on phase analysis, and of course based on technical targets and patterns. Guys, we will keep you up to date with Cardano. We don't really make as much Cardano content as we used to the dissatisfaction of, I think, many of you, because Cardano was something that at one point I perhaps believed in a lot more than I do today. However, that doesn't mean that I don't believe in it. Charles touched on first principles being intact. Cardano for me was always the kind of evolution of Bitcoin, because it maintained those principles but added capabilities to it, and now we're figuring out the kind of path forward in regards to scalability, et cetera, et cetera. And I say we because I very much still consider myself as part of the Cardano community, even if I have invested more in other ecosystems because I think they're doing more. That's just my own personal take. That doesn't mean I don't love the Cardano community. It's given me so much, and we want to continue to do videos like these to give back wherever we can. And of course, we've been running a stake pool for Cardano now since 2021. We're nearly 4 years supporting this network, and we're going to continue to do so. If you want to stake with me, guys, we will be doing some stuff with the stake pool. Do check out the all-in pool. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you all in the next one.